All right, I'll go ahead and start recording because I can just cut parts of it out later.
Oh, you know how to cut it?
Huh?
You know.
Yeah, it's not hard.
Okay, cool. Well, when I mess up.
Do you want me to time and like give us 5-minute signal or something?
That'd be great.
Yeah. Well, how much? 20 minutes? I probably won't even get to 20 minutes.
Is that right?
Yeah. Ready?
Are you ready?
Are you? What's your name? George.
Bob.
Just go Bob. Okay. Bob, come on in. How are you?
Doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Take a seat, please.
Sure.
Before we get started here, is it okay if I take notes?
No, sure, no problem.
Okay. Well, I guess the first question is, what brings you in here today?
Well, my father just died.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
It's hard.
And he left my mother with a pretty substantial estate. And I have no idea what to do with money, and it's just completely overwhelming. And I'm just not sure what to do. I don't know. I was named the executor, and I don't even know what that means. So I just don't know what I'm supposed to do. So I need somebody to help me out.
Okay. So you're the executor, right?
Yes.
But most of the assets are left to your mom?
That's
Is that
right.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess the first thing would be figuring out what kind of assets were left to your mom. So are you familiar with that? What kind of?
I think it's in a lot of different trusts, and I don't really know what the purpose of the trust is. They were set up years and years ago, and I wasn't really involved. And the attorney that set them up he actually died a couple years ago, so I really couldn't even begin to figure it out.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess first, I should have been first. When did your father pass away?
3 weeks ago.
And when was the funeral?
We're still kind of figuring that out. We've decided to do a cremation, but we haven't held an actual service yet.
Okay. And how old was he?
95.
95. So I guess it's never expected, but maybe it's something that obviously he's prepared for it if he's got various trusts set up.
Mm-hmm.
I'd really like to know a little bit about your father, if you don't mind, if it's okay, if you're able to talk about it. Where was his occupation?
He was he ran a crude oil resale business. He sold it a number of years ago, and my brother took it over after he sold it, or rather they reformed it, and my brother kind of took it over and sold it again.
Yeah.
So my brother's independently wealthy, but he's wanted me to take all my grandfather's stuff and give it over to his son-in-law to manage it, and he's just with the brokerage. I don't know if that's a good idea. I have no idea what they do over there, but he's really putting a lot of pressure on it, and he always thinks that I'm trying to screw over the family somehow by being named the executor. I think he is a little offended and thinks he's better with money and everything.
So that's your brother who wants to have his son-in-law manage it, right? Okay. What kind of will was set up? Was it a recent will? I guess it's more important.
Mm-hmm.
It was? Okay. What did that lay out for?
He's kind of divided the assets amongst my brother and my two brothers. Kind of divided and left some for the grandkids. It's all, for the most part, going into various types of trusts. I don't have any idea how it works. I don't know if I have some kind of legal responsibility or whatever. I don't know anything about it, and I've been given this huge pile of paperwork and no idea how to accomplish any of it. So
Okay.
I really need some help.
Yeah, we can definitely help you there. Before we get into kind of how the trusts work and what your role is, your responsibility is as the executor, I'd like to get a little bit more information on your mom. obviously I'm sure some of the assets are meant to help grandkids and maybe with education, but I would guess that the primary goal of your father's trust and various accounts is to take care of your mom. So tell me a little bit about her, if you don't mind.
Well, a few years ago, she kind of started to go. She has dementia, and so I have power of attorney and everything for her, and I'm the one that has to take care of her. She's still pretty independent, but I'm terrified that somebody's gonna call her up and say they're a Nigerian prince or something and take all her money. So
yeah, elder abuse financially is common, sadly, and you do have power of attorney though.
Mm-hmm.
Correct? Okay. What's her living situation? Has that been set up, or was she living with your father?
She was living with my father. She lives by herself now. She has a housekeeper that comes a few times a week to make sure everything's in order and everything. There's no way I could convince her to go to a nursing home or to get an in-home care assistant or anything. So I think I might have to buy the house next door and move in there and maybe sell my house to my kids or something, because otherwise I just don't know how I'm gonna figure that out at all, because she has dementia, but it's just mostly like short-term memory stuff. So she's not so far gone that if we moved her to a nursing home, she couldn't get in a car and just leave.
Okay.
So
she still has some measure of independency.
Yeah.
Well, I think to get a complete understanding, I know that most of this will be dealing with your mom, obviously, and your dad's, you being executor, but because you're so involved, I'd like to also get to know a little bit more about you, where you work, kind of what your more immediate family is like.
Well, I'm divorced. I have several kids. I'm paying for them to go through college and kind of helping them with some of their living expenses. I'm recently retired. I was also in the oil business as a landman, so I had some success there. It's just been so overwhelming. I mean, I'm not really worried about my situation beyond, I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to pay for my kids' education, and then I know I'm going to be getting something eventually from my grandmother's estate, or my mother's estate rather, sorry.
Yeah.
So.
How many kids do you have?
3.
Yeah. Well, I think the best plan would be to take it kind of in 2 parts. So I want to know if you would be comfortable with us preparing a financial plan for yourself, and then we'll also deal with the distribution of the estate and kind of your goals as an executor. So the first piece I think would be just an initial meeting that we can set up to really focus on you and your financial plan. That would be acceptable? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can set that up. But the way, and hopefully I'm hearing you right, today you'd like to get to know a little bit more about kind of the way the trusts work, your role as an executor, mm-hmm. stuff like that. Okay. Well, I think until you've had the funeral, and do you have any idea when that'll be?
No, not really.
No. Well, I think until then, I would say that don't worry about doing anything in terms of executing the will. It sounds like how are most of the assets titled? Were they titled joint survivors? So they would, when your father dies, it would instantly go to your mother. Do you know?
Well, a lot of it was already placed in trust prior to his death, so
Okay.
It was kind of a lot of the house and stuff were kind of joint tenancy with survivorship, I think, is what the estate attorney said many years ago. And so I think all of it's either in my mother's name or it's in a trust somewhere where I don't know how that works or anything. So
Yeah. Do you know the just rough estimate, the amount total that will be transferred from, so how much would be going to your mother and the various trusts, do you know?
I think it's about $2 million. I forgot to include that some of it's in land and oil royalties, and I have no idea. I mean, although I'm a landman, that's not really my specialty, so I have no idea how you would even begin to value something like that. And with my brother just breathing down my neck, and every time I try to do even the most basic financial thing for my mom, he just goes into a rage, and he's really pushing me hard to go over to his son-in-law, but his son-in-law is kind of an idiot, and I don't trust him with my mother's money, let alone mine. So I don't know how to figure out a compromise. Maybe I don't know, it might help him if we included him in the whole planning process so we could see you're not trying to steal everything.
Include your brother or your brother's son-in-law?
My brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. I think, first of all, you were named the executor, and you have the power of attorney. So
Yes.
you are the final say on all matters. That's how your dad obviously wanted it, and that's how your mother wants it. So I think that the first thing is that you shouldn't feel bad about making these decisions. I don't think there's not always going to be a right or a wrong answer. Sometimes it's just kind of somewhere in the middle. So I think the best thing would be to know that, so $2 million in total for your father. So let's say 1.5 will go to your mom, something like that, and 500,000 are going to grandkids and kids. That is well below the threshold for estate taxes. So there's no problem there. Even if it was grandkids, there's a type of tax that goes to generation. It's called generation skipping transfer tax.
I think I've heard of that.
Right, I'm sure the attorneys told you about that, but you also have an exemption. He has an exemption for that. So we won't even have to deal with estate taxes. Now, I think the first thing to do would be, I'd like to know kind of where you are on handling your father's death. I don't know if it's been tough, I'm sure.
There's been so much to deal with and so many balls up in the air. I haven't even really had time to sit down and think about it. I've just been so absorbed with taking care of the things that need to be taken care of that I haven't really thought about it much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's more common than not. And I think when someone has an event like this in their life, they're worried about kind of the government coming in with taxes, figuring out where the assets are going, and figuring out if there's any dependents that are going to be taken care of. So on those three accounts, well below the estate tax level, so don't have to worry about that. The trusts have been set up, so the assets, we know you're going to know where the assets are going. And third thing is your mom, and obviously kind of 2 and 3 go together, where some of the trusts will most likely be for taking care of your mom. And you have power of attorney, and you've already made, I think, the best step coming and asking for help. So everything's taken care of. What do you know about being the executor? What do you feel? What do you think that's going to entail?
Just from watching TV shows and stuff, I thought the executor was the guy who invites the family in and reads off the will and tells people who's getting what. And that's pretty much the extent of my knowledge about it.
Yeah, that is most people's knowledge, whatever they see on Matlock or whatever they watch. In terms of the will, reading of the will, the attorney will handle that.
Okay.
Some assets will be titled, and they'll go to your mother just instantly. And I think part of your responsibility will be making sure that some of those assets are retitled in her name, that she owns that. You also have power of attorney, so that'll be a very simple process. The next thing would be some assets that are not going to your mother. So if there's some, they're going, okay. So I think the first thing as the executor, you'll just need to make sure that those are transferred. So you have an IRA account, I'm sure, some sort of retirement account.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that if any, let's say your father were to give a retirement account to you and your brother, for example, as executor, you would be responsible for just making sure that the IRA is split into those two, to you and your brother, and those assets are titled properly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all. And then I think the final thing, and it sounds like you have a great family plan and a great kind of structure in terms of, your father had a great structure in terms of his estate.
Mm-hmm.
So part of it would be if anything goes to probate. Do you understand probate?
No idea.
So all that means is that if an asset did not have someone on the title, so if it said, so it paid out to your grandfather or to your father's estate, then as executor you would be responsible for getting in touch with attorneys and courts and deciding kind of where that goes.
Mm-hmm.
And we can certainly help you in retitling assets and dealing with probate. So I really don't think there's anything to worry about. I would tell you that you should probably just focus on the funeral, kind of focus on maybe mourning and figuring things out. We'll get more information about your brother and maybe get in contact with him. I understand that's what you want that, right?
Yeah.
You want to keep him in the loop.
I'm worried that if I don't keep him in the loop, he'll throw a lawsuit at me or something. He's pretty anger motivated.
Okay. Well, we can get in contact with him and kind of keep him up to speed on what we're doing, and then I would say maybe try to meet, if it's okay with you, set something up a month after your father's funeral. So maybe we could do a month and a half. That'll give you time to set the funeral up,
Okay.
kind of get through that process, and then in a month and a half we can begin kind of the financial side of distributing those assets. Does that sound good?
I think that sounds okay. I think that should give me enough time to kind of take everything in and
Right, of course.
adjust.
Of course. Well, if that's everything, I think we've got our plan set up and what we'll do next. So other than that, I think I'm sorry, and I hope everything
Thank
goes
you.
well.
I appreciate it. Good to see you.
Yep.
See you later.